If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.
The airlock hissed as the starship docked, and my instinct screamed. This human wasn't just any soldier. I'd heard the legends, stories whispered across galaxies about humans, merciless warriors with a strange code of honor. Yet here I was, staring into the eyes of one who had already spared me, and I didn't understand why. Cadet Ziv's translator buzzed nervously in my ear. They say humans hunt like predators, fight like machines, and feel nothing. I swallowed hard. Nothing had prepared me for the way he looked, curious, calm, and terrifyingly precise. The corridor lights flickered as we followed him into the abandoned hangar. Rusted cargo crates littered the floor. And then, without warning, he stopped. One hand rested on the hilt of a weapon far too advanced for most species here. "Why aren't you dead?" I whispered. A low chuckle escaped him, almost human, almost sinister. "Because you aren't worth my anger, yet." My pulse spiked. That phrase, the way it lingered in the metal-scented air, wasn't a threat, it was a puzzle. Something in him, something alien even to humans, yet oddly familiar. And that's when I realized the stories were wrong. Humans weren't just brutal, they were different. A flicker of morality in a storm of chaos, a contradiction that made them more dangerous than any weapon we had. I took a careful step forward. "Explain yourself." His eyes narrowed, scanning every shadow. "Do you even understand what you're asking?" Before I could answer, a piercing alarm shattered the hangar's silence. Red lights bathed the walls. Something was coming, something that would test everything I thought I knew about humans and about mercy.
The red lights flashed faster, painting the hangar in staccato bursts of danger. I could hear the vibrations under the metal floor, footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Whoever or whatever was coming, it wasn't just a threat, it was a judgment. The human moved like liquid shadow, slipping between crates with unnatural grace. Every motion precise, calculated, but not rushed. I stumbled behind him, trying to keep up, but my limbs felt clumsy, foreign. What are we dealing with?" I gasped. He didn't answer. Instead, he crouched low, whispering in a tongue that made my translator short-circuit. I understood enough. "They know we're here." My stomach tightened. This wasn't a fight we could just run from. A metallic clang echoed. Something massive rounded the corner. I froze. Its eyes glowed like molten gold. Its claws, they could shred steel. Every instinct screamed for me to flee, yet the human stood firm. No hesitation, no fear. Then, in one fluid motion, he raised his weapon. A pulse of energy lit the corridor, carving a path between him and the creature. It roared, staggering back, but he didn't fire again. Instead, he watched, measured, waiting for the perfect moment. And I realized the impossible. He could have killed it in an instant. But he didn't. He spared it. And in that instant, I understood the legend. Humans weren't just predators. They were arbiters, deciding who lived, who died, not out of mercy, but out of a code we couldn't yet comprehend. Something shifted in me. Fear, yes, but also a grudging respect, a curiosity I couldn't silence. How far did this human's restraint go? Before I could even think to ask, a voice boomed across the hangar. "You shouldn't be here." The creature, or its master, had allies. More were coming, and this time, mercy might not save anyone. The hangar doors slammed shut behind us with a deafening clang. My heart raced as the human scanned the room, eyes sharp as starship blades. "We don't have much time," he muttered, voice calm but edged with authority.
They're not coming for a fight. They're coming for a statement. I glanced at him, confused. A statement? He didn't answer. Instead, he motioned me toward a narrow maintenance tunnel, half hidden behind a stack of crates. As we slipped inside, the corridor grew darker, narrower, and somehow colder. Every nerve in my body screamed that danger was following us, yet his presence radiated a strange confidence that made my fear almost tolerable. Then came the sound, mechanical, deliberate, and horrifyingly precise. Metal scraping against metal. Something or someone was hunting us. I stumbled, but he caught me by the shoulder. "Keep moving. Watch your step." I obeyed, but my mind raced. How could someone so small, so human, command such control over a situation that should have killed us both? Every instinct screamed that I was witnessing something legendary, but also terrifyingly real. A sudden vibration rang through the tunnel. The walls shuddered. The predator's roar echoed from above. I froze. My instincts told me, we're cornered. But the human, he smiled, just slightly, like he had been expecting this. "Good," he whispered. "They've underestimated us, as usual." And then, in the pitch-black corridor, I realized the truth. Humans weren't just brutal, not just strong. They were strategic, calculating, and utterly unpredictable. And right now, our survival depended entirely on his next move. A shadow fell across the wall, a massive, clawed figure descending toward us. I felt my pulse spike, my breath catch, my mind scream, but the human didn't flinch. He raised a single hand, and in that small gesture, he changed everything. The shadow hit the floor with a bone-jarring thud, sending a shower of sparks flying from exposed wiring. I stumbled backward, heart hammering, expecting the end. But the human didn't move. Not a step, not a blink. He simply studied the creature, as if reading a book only he could understand. It lunged, fast, too fast for my eyes to track, but he sidestepped it effortlessly, almost like he'd danced with death 1,000 times before. The creature's claws slashed through empty air, ripping the metal floor where I had just stood. My stomach twisted. Then came the strangest moment. Instead of retaliating with lethal force, the human extended his hand, not a weapon, just his bare hand, toward the creature. It hesitated. Its instincts screamed to strike, but something about him froze it. Time itself seemed to stall. I couldn't believe it. Could he really control a predator like this, with nothing but presence, fear, respect, or something else entirely? The air crackled, tension so thick I could taste it. And then, just as suddenly as it lunged, the creature stepped back. The human's eyes locked with mine. "You see now, don't you?" he asked, voice calm but commanding. "This is what humans do. We measure, we decide, and we choose. Not everyone dies who deserves it, but everyone dies who miscalculates us." I swallowed hard, the realization hitting me like a supernova. Brutal? Yes. Merciless? In some ways. But a human's strength wasn't just in the body. It was in the mind, in the code of judgment, in the patience to wait for the perfect moment. And as the creature retreated into the shadows, I knew one thing. The legends had underestimated humans. They were more than warriors. They were arbiters of fate. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber, dimly lit by flickering emergency lights. The walls were lined with alien technology I barely recognized. Machines hummed with power, and in the center, a control console blinked ominously. Whatever we were running from, it wanted something, and fast. The human stepped forward, his gaze scanning every corner. "They've set a trap," he said quietly, "and we're standing right in the middle of it." My chest tightened.
Every instinct screamed that this was a suicide mission, yet he moved like he was already 3 steps ahead of us. A low rumble shook the chamber. From the shadows emerged not just one predator, but an entire pack, 6 massive creatures, each more terrifying than the last. Their glowing eyes locked on us, calculating, relentless. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I couldn't, not while he was there. He turned to me for just a moment. Stay close. Watch. Learn. His voice was calm, but I could feel the power in it, the unshakable confidence of someone who had faced death more times than most species could count. Then the first creature lunged. I flinched, but he didn't fire. He moved with inhuman speed, dodging, redirecting, and using the predator's momentum against them. One by one, the creatures fell, stunned, not killed, every strike precise, almost surgical. I realized something terrifying. This human didn't need to kill to dominate. His presence alone dictated the outcome. The predators paused, confused. They had never encountered an opponent who could fight without fury, who could win without bloodshed. And yet, even as I marveled at his skill, my mind screamed a single thought. How far would he go before he finally let a predator die, or before I did?
Here's part 6. Part 6. The creatures hesitated, their instincts screaming danger, yet something about him held them at bay. I could see it now. Humans weren't just warriors. They were catalysts, forces that bent situations to their will, not through brute strength alone, but through sheer presence, strategy, and unpredictability. He crouched low, scanning the chamber, and whispered in a language I barely understood. They're coordinated, but sloppy. They always underestimate one factor, the human element. My head spun. Human element? I thought I knew what humans were capable of, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Suddenly, a massive claw swung at us from above. I froze. The human caught my gaze and with a single motion shoved me to the side. I crashed into a console, sparks flying, alarms blaring. But when I looked back, he was gone from my line of sight. One moment he had been standing there, then vanished, ghost-like. From the shadows, he emerged behind the largest predator, a silent phantom. In seconds, the creature was restrained, not wounded, held in a position it couldn't escape from, utterly dominated without a single lethal blow. My jaw went dry. I had seen power before, but this was something else entirely. He glanced at me, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Most species would have panicked or killed everything in sight. We don't. Humans assess, decide, and act. That's how we survive. I swallowed hard. His words sank deeper than any weapon ever could, and yet a lingering fear remained. If mercy was his choice, then cruelty could be his choice too, and I wasn't sure which version of him would be tested next. Then, without warning, a metallic crash echoed from the upper catwalk. Reinforcements, more than we could handle, were pouring in, and in that instant I understood. This human's true test had only just begun. The catwalk above groaned under the weight of reinforcements. Alien soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons raised, their eyes blazing with malice. My heart pounded. We were outnumbered, cornered, and exposed. Any rational mind would have screamed surrender. But the human didn't flinch, not once. He moved like a shadow, slipping between the attackers, dodging blasts and countering with movements so precise it was as if the air itself obeyed him. Each step calculated, every strike measured, lethal force held back until absolutely necessary. I stumbled behind him, trying to keep up. How are you doing this?" I whispered, awe and terror tangled in my voice. He glanced at me, expression unreadable.
I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I can. That's the difference between us and them. We calculate the cost. We control the outcome. A soldier swung a plasma baton, aiming for him. Instinctively, I flinched, but the human simply sidestepped, redirected the momentum, and sent the attacker sprawling across the floor. Another followed, another. Each time he restrained rather than destroyed. His choices shaped the battlefield, bending chaos to his will. And then, as I watched in disbelief, a strange realization hit me. These humans, they weren't just predators. They weren't merely warriors. They were arbiters of fate, capable of mercy in a storm of brutality, capable of sparing lives others would consider disposable. But even as I grasped this truth, the room shook violently. From the shadows, the leader of the reinforcements emerged, a hulking figure with eyes like molten steel, and his gaze locked on us. The human froze just for a heartbeat, then smiled. Now it gets interesting. The leader stepped forward, each movement deliberate, heavy with authority. The chamber seemed to shrink around him, the air thick with tension. Every instinct screamed that this wasn't just another opponent. It was a force of nature, bred to kill without hesitation. The human didn't flinch. He studied the leader like a predator assessing prey, but not with fear, with curiosity, calculated patience. My chest tightened as I realized the truth. This wasn't a fight of strength. It was a battle of wills, of judgment, and of strategy. The leader roared, and his minions surged forward. Time slowed. The human moved like a ghost through the chaos, striking, dodging, redirecting energy, yet never killing. Every move was intentional, every decision measured. I could barely comprehend it. He wasn't fighting to win, he was fighting to control. A massive blast struck near me, and I fell to the floor. Sparks rained down, illuminating his face for a fleeting second. Calm, focused, terrifying. Then he was gone again, appearing behind the leader. In a fluid motion, he disarmed the giant, redirecting his momentum so the creature crashed to the floor, unharmed but completely subdued. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This human had the strength to destroy everyone in the room, but he chose not to. And yet the threat remained, looming larger than ever. The leader was down, yes, but his eyes burned with hatred, with anticipation. The human looked back at me, eyes locking mine. This is why humans survive, not because we are the strongest, but because we decide who deserves to live. And in that moment, I realized, if humans could show mercy in the face of overwhelming power, then nothing, not fear, not death, not destiny.
The leader's minions hesitated, uncertainty flickering across their faces. They had never seen this before, a human who didn't fight like the rest of us, who didn't kill recklessly, who controlled the battlefield with restraint. It was almost unnatural. The human's gaze swept across the chamber, calculating, assessing. Then he turned to me. Stay close. Watch carefully. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight, authority, and a promise I couldn't yet fully grasp. The leader stirred, massive fists pounding the floor. The ground trembled under his rage. Yet the human didn't back down. Instead, he stepped forward, deliberately slowing the pace, forcing the opponent to overcommit. The tension was unbearable, every second stretched like a lifetime. Then it happened. The leader lunged, aiming to crush him in one deadly strike. But the human sidestepped, grabbed the leader's arm, and using nothing but leverage and precision, flipped him over in a move that left the giant stunned but alive. Every observer in the chamber, friend or foe, paused, stunned. I realized then what the legends never told us. Humans could dominate not through raw power, but through ingenuity, timing, and control. They could stop death without becoming death themselves. It was terrifying and awe-inspiring. And yet, even as I watched in awe, the alarms blared louder. Reinforcements were coming. The stakes had just multiplied, and I knew deep down that this human, this paradox of mercy and brutality, was about to show me something no alien had ever truly understood.
The reinforcements poured in, dozens strong, but the human didn't hesitate. He moved like a storm contained within a calm eye, every strike precise, every motion deliberate. Yet again, no one died. He restrained, redirected, and controlled chaos itself. I realized the truth in full now. Humans were not merely warriors, they were arbiters. They decided who lived, who died, not through mindless fury, but through an almost impossible combination of strength, intelligence, and mercy. The creatures, the soldiers, the leader himself, they were all forced to reckon with something they couldn't predict: choice. The leader roared one final time, swinging wildly in frustration, but the human met him head-on. With a single fluid motion, he disarmed the giant, pinned him, and held him there, alive, yet utterly powerless. And then he released a single hand toward me. See, brutality is easy. Restraint, that's power. I took a deep breath, awe and fear twisting together. I had come expecting a fight. What I had witnessed was something far beyond. Humans weren't just brutal, they were masters of chaos and mercy alike. They could strike or spare, decide or hesitate, and in doing so, shape the course of life itself. As the dust settled, the creatures retreated, the soldiers fled, and the leader slumped to the floor, defeated but alive. The human turned to me, eyes calm, almost gentle. "Remember this," he said, "never underestimate what a human chooses to do, or chooses not to do." In that moment, I understood. Humans weren't just survivors, they were legends walking among us, and I had been spared, not because I was worthy, but because a human decided it so. And that decision had changed everything.